Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are diving deep into something that's been all over the internet, the Colleen Ballinger situation. We've got a bunch of different stuff to go through, like YouTube videos, audio clips, transcripts, all kinds of things. And it's really interesting to see all the different points of view on this whole thing.
Yeah, it's a wild one for sure. I mean, it really gets you thinking about like how fame works online,
Right.
the whole persona versus real life thing, and how tricky it is to be responsible when you have so many people watching, especially when those people are young.
It's true.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, this is your chance to really get into the nitty-gritty of this whole controversy. We're going to look at the accusations, all the evidence, and what it all means for influencers in general.
Exactly. We're going to try to be super fair here,
Mm.
not picking sides, just laying it all out there for you.
Yeah.
So consider us your like tour guides through this whole mess.
Okay, so let's back up for a sec and talk about how Colleen Ballinger even got famous. She blew up with that Miranda Things character,
Yeah.
over-the-top makeup, the crazy, awful singing voice.
Yeah.
But somehow it's super charming, too.
Yeah, like she's so awkward, it's almost relatable, you know? And that's what makes people feel connected to her. That's how those parasocial relationships form. It's like a big thing online.
Totally. And she didn't just stay on YouTube either.
Right.
She was on TV. She did stuff with huge stars like Ariana Grande. She was even on Broadway. She was everywhere. Super influential.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's what makes the accusations against her even crazier. It's like this super innocent character, but then there are these accusations of bad behavior, especially toward young fans. Like, whoa, what's going on here?
Okay, so let's get to the point. Back in 2020, this former fan, Adam McIntyre, he posts a YouTube video and accuses Ballinger of being inappropriate. He said she was in group chats with minors talking about personal stuff that made him uncomfortable.
Right. And you got to think about the power dynamic there. It's a young kid and a huge internet star. It's a recipe for problems, especially online where it's easy to cross boundaries without even realizing it.
Exactly. And McIntyre didn't stop there. He went on to say that Ballinger sent lingerie to underage fans, and that she even did some questionable stuff with minors on stage during her shows.
Yeah, that was like really disturbing. It wasn't just like miscommunication or something. It felt like a pattern of bad behavior. Like maybe she was abusing her power and not caring about these young fans.
And then there were all these questions about her charity stuff.
Right.
Like she did donate to real charities, but fans were confused about how much money went where.
Yes.
And she was using the system where the money went through her personal account first.
Yeah, that's a big no-no. You got to be transparent with that kind of thing, especially when you're dealing with donations. When people lose trust, it's hard to get it back, and it hurts everyone involved, even the good causes.
Totally. So let's talk about how Ballinger responded to all this. Back in 2020, she put out an apology video trying to explain herself. But it didn't really work.
It kind of felt like she was trying to downplay things,
Hmm.
and blame other people. It didn't seem like she was really sorry or that she wanted to change.
Yeah, and then in 2023, when everything blew up again, she did this weird thing. Instead of a normal apology, she made a ukulele song about it. And it was super jokey and dismissive.
It's interesting, right? Like, why did she choose that? It just came across as insensitive. Like, she didn't understand how serious the situation was, and it just pushed away a lot of fans who were already upset.
Yeah, it totally backfired. She kept trying to avoid responsibility and even said that people were lying and spreading rumors about her.
It created this us versus them thing, Like, she was digging in her heels and making things worse. It's like sometimes how you react is even more important than the original problem.
And then she got her lawyers involved. They started sending out cease and desist letters to YouTubers who were talking about it, which obviously just made things explode even more.
Classic Streisand effect, right? She tried to shut people up, but it just brought more attention to the whole thing. Instead of seeming responsible, she looked like she was trying to hide something. Okay, so now let's think about the fans. Like, the people who've been watching Ballinger for years. What's it been like for them?
I know, it's got to be rough. Right, these are people who grew up with her, felt like they knew her, and now they're dealing with all these accusations against someone they looked up to.
It's that whole parasocial relationship thing,
Yeah.
There's this media scholar, Dr. Riva Tukachinsky. She's done a ton of research on this. And she says fans get super invested in these online personalities. Like, they really believe they know them personally.
So when someone they admire does something wrong, it's like a punch in the gut.
Right.
Like a total betrayal.
Exactly. It's like cognitive dissonance. You have this good image of someone, and then they do bad stuff. And your brain is like, wait, what? It's confusing, makes people angry. Sad.
And that's what we saw online.
Yeah.
Some fans were just done.
Yeah.
They were so angry and disappointed.
And others were like, nope, I still believe her. They defended her and said it was all lies and cancel culture.
Yeah, the fandom totally split in two. People were fighting and arguing online,
This happens all the time with online fandoms. There's this guy, Jonathan Haidt. He's a social psychologist, and he talks about this thing called a moral matrix. It's like our values and beliefs shape how we see the world.
So even if you give people the same information, they might interpret it totally differently depending on their own morals.
Exactly. And then you add in other YouTubers who are talking about the situation and giving their opinions, it gets even more confusing.
Right, like Cody Tyler. He was defending Ballinger at first, but then he took it all back and deleted his videos. And then there's Trisha Paytas. She had a podcast with Ballinger, but she didn't say anything for ages.
Yeah.
And then she came out and criticized her.
All these commentary channels, they have so much influence, you know? They're shaping the narrative for their viewers.
And it shows how important it is to think critically, even if you trust someone. You got to think about their biases, their motives. Are they giving you the whole story?
Be a smart consumer of information, especially online, where anyone can say they're an expert.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual evidence that's out there. There are screenshots of group chats, videos, tweets, all this stuff that people are analyzing and arguing about.
And some of it is pretty bad. Like, there are screenshots where Ballinger is allegedly asking minors about their sex life, sending them inappropriate videos, asking for pictures of their bodies.
And that's super serious. But Ballinger says some of those screenshots are fake or taken out of context.
Right, and that's the problem. It becomes a he said, she said thing. It's really hard to know what's true.
It shows how easy it is to manipulate stuff online. You can't always believe what you see.
And it's important not to jump to conclusions. We gotta be critical, look at things from different angles, and admit that we don't always have all the answers.
Totally. So even if some of the evidence is questionable, there are still some things that are hard to explain away. Like there's this video of Ballinger on stage with his 16-year-old fan, and she like spreads the girl's legs open as a joke.
Even if it was supposed to be funny, it's just bad judgment. You know, it reinforces that power imbalance between her and her young fans. And it fits into this pattern of crossing boundaries that we've been talking about.
And then there's the whole lingerie thing. Ballinger admits she sent underwear to a fan, but she says it was for a giveaway, and she didn't know the fan was underage.
But there are videos where Ballinger is joking about sending underwear to a specific fan who was a minor.
So it's like her story doesn't really add up.
Yeah.
It makes it hard to believe her.
It all comes down to trust. When you're inconsistent, people start to doubt you, and actions speak louder than words. Especially online, where everything you do is out there for everyone to see.
And all this has gotten people talking about legal stuff. Like Ballinger hasn't been charged with anything. But some lawyers say she could get in trouble if it turns out she knew she was doing inappropriate things with minors.
The laws about online stuff, especially when it involves kids, are changing all the time. This whole thing with Ballinger could set a precedent for how these cases are handled in the future.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that influencer culture needs some serious rules.
Totally. We've talked about power dynamics and transparency, but there's also the issue of consent, especially with young fans.
Influencers need to get it.
Yeah.
These kids look up to them. They want their attention. It's so easy to take advantage of that.
It's not just about avoiding illegal stuff. It's about being respectful and ethical, both online and in real life.
And they need to realize that their actions have consequences. What they say and do online affects their followers. Okay, so we've talked about the accusations, the evidence, the impact on fans, but like, what does this all mean for influencers in general? It feels like this whole Colleen Ballinger thing has made people think differently about online fame.
It's definitely a big deal. It's like we're finally admitting that there are some dark sides to this whole influencer thing, like the power imbalance between influencers and fans, the possibility of exploitation, and the fact that there's not a lot of accountability.
It's like the internet is amazing, but it can also be a really dangerous place if we're not careful.
Right. Think about it. In the old days, celebrities had to answer to studios' record labels. The media, like there were people keeping them in check.
But now anyone can be an influencer. You get a phone and some Wi-Fi and boom, you have millions of followers and tons of power. But are people ready for that kind of responsibility?
It's like we gave them the keys to the car without teaching them how to drive.
So we need more accountability, right? We can't just trust influencers to police themselves. The internet is too big and too messy. We need rules standards, maybe even laws that deal with all the unique challenges of influencer culture.
Totally. Influencers and platforms like YouTube and Instagram need to change their thinking. It's not just about getting more followers and views.
It's not just about being popular. It's about being ethical and transparent and protecting people, especially young fans.
We need to move away from that move fast and break things attitude that Silicon Valley loves and start thinking about the consequences of our actions.
And what about us, the viewers? We're part of this too, right?
Oh, absolutely. We have a huge role to play. We need to be more careful about who we follow and support. And we need to call out bad behavior, even if it's unpopular.
We have power as consumers. We can use that power to make the internet a better place.
This whole Colleen Ballinger situation is a wake-up call. It shows that the internet can be deceiving, and that we need to be more critical and aware.
It's a reminder that we all need to step up. Influencers, platforms, and viewers. We all have a part to play in making the internet a safer and more responsible space.
Well said. So I think that about wraps things up for this deep dive. It's been intense but important, and I hope everyone listening has learned something.
I agree. This conversation needs to continue. We got to keep asking tough questions and demanding better from everyone involved.
We need to work together to create an online world where everyone feels safe, respected, and empowered.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay informed.